RIP HBO Max. Hello, Max! Just a few years after its launch, HBO Max has gone to streaming heaven. This is Warner Bros. Discovery's rebranded streaming service, simply called Max. And let's just say launch week has not gone great. It's been quite an embarrassment for the new service, actually. Aside from the usual technical glitches that happen with the launch of a new streaming service, the design of Max is a bit confusing and not as elegant as the former HBO Max. The regal purple has been replaced with a bright blue. The channel hubs have been replaced with brand spotlights, so finding specific content is not as intuitive. But what really caused a stir was the decision to lump directors, writers, and producers all into a generic category called creators. Let's just say this did not go over well with directors and writers at a time when the AMPTP is negotiating with both unions. Hollywood artists do not like being called creators. Warner Bros. Discovery had to quickly backtrack on this labeling choice, but the PR damage has been done. The primary reason for this rebranding is to broaden the appeal of the streaming service beyond fans of HBO. Warner Bros. Discovery wants to use the Max branding to showcase the company's major brands such as Wizarding World, Looney Tunes, and Discovery. However, some feel dropping HBO from the name risks devaluing the HBO brand. But as Warner Bros. Discovery explains it, protecting HBO's prestige is a major reason for the rebranding. Or as I like to explain it, HBO is primarily known for shows about terrible people. Most of HBO's iconic award-winning shows share this common DNA: terrible people doing terrible things to each other. Think about it. The Sopranos, a murderous mobster family murders a lot of other murderous mobsters while also exploring their feelings. The Wire, corruption, drugs, mass killings. It's practically a documentary by today's standards. Sex and the City, a group of narcissistic friends live exceptionally vapid lives until one friend stops talking to the other three. Veep, so much terrible. Succession, a terrible father and his terrible children concoct terrible plans to divide the country by weaponizing their propaganda news channel. Again, practically a documentary. White Lotus, elegantly wasted one-percenters travel to exotic locations to mix it with the common folk, and death soon follows. And then there's HBO's signature franchise, Game of Thrones, an entire series about terrible families killing other terrible families until one super terrible person decides to use nuclear weapons so that she may fulfill her birthright to rule over all other terrible families. And then there's House of the Dragon. One terrible murderous family with nukes wants to seize the Iron Throne from another terrible murderous family, also with nukes, because of a prophecy and hereditary entitlement. It's medieval mutually assured destruction, and these dragon-riding terribles have little regard for the innocent people killed in their path. Did someone say the beast beneath the board? And I love them all. Seriously, I've watched most of these shows more than once. Watching terrible people do terrible things to each other? Yes, please. Thank you, HBO. With these shows, HBO has acquired legions of fans and a ton of Emmys. It's the most honored television network of the last 2 decades. However, there is a limit to the appeal of watching terrible people as entertainment. While the HBO brand is highly appealing to some audiences, critics, and Emmy voters, it's also highly off-putting to many others. Warner Bros. Discovery is facing stiff competition from Netflix and Disney+. Both of those streaming services have a broad array of programming that appeals to multiple generations of audiences. The new Max will lean heavily into programming for families and perhaps morph into a babysitting service like how many parents use Disney+. Some also felt that HBO's prestige could be diluted by Discovery's programming. Discovery specializes in cheap-to-produce background TV, where HBO serves up big-budget appointment television. Max launches with the streaming premiere of Shazam 2: Fury of the Gods, along with some scripted and unscripted shows like Gremlins: Secrets of the Mogwai. This is an animated prequel series to the classic 1984 movie. That movie is still a favorite today for its wicked sense of humor and little monsters, so Max is hoping to tap into that nostalgia factor. Clone High is a show rising from the cancellation graveyard. The show ran for 1 season more than a decade ago on MTV before it was canceled. Since then, the show about cloned historical figures has amassed a cult following, which is why it has received a second life on Max. German Genius is a satirical comedy starring Ricky Gervais, who plays a fictionalized version of himself adopting his show Extras for a German audience. Bama Rush is a new documentary about college sororities at Alabama University. It was inspired by TikTok videos from students who documented their Rush Week. The documentary offers an inside look at the week-long event. Max is hoping it will achieve the same viral success it had on TikTok. Smartless on the Road is a 6-episode miniseries about the Smartless podcast hosted by Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes. It will follow the trio on their live tour of the U.S. as they travel through Boston, Brooklyn, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Madison, Wisconsin, and Los Angeles. What Am I Eating with Zooey Deschanel is a new docuseries in which the new girl explores what Americans eat. And definitely not for family audiences, there is How to Create a Sex Scandal, a 3-part true crime docuseries about a small town in Texas that is thrown into scandal when a sex abuse ring is discovered. In addition to these new shows, most, but not all, of HBO Max's programming will move over to the Max service. Some Discovery Plus content will also be included in Max, though Discovery Plus will remain its own distinct service for people who are only interested in Discovery's unique brand of entertainment. We've entered the second era of the streaming wars as each streaming service struggles to find a balance between content, ads, and sustainable profits. There are so many services to choose from premium subscriptions to free ad-supported options. And that's what this channel is for. We'll be covering the streaming industry as it continues to evolve. We'll also cover the ongoing writer strike, the potential actor strike, as well as how AI will fundamentally change the industry. We also watch a lot of film and television, and sharing is caring, so expect some reviews. So consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification. And thank you for watching this video on YouTube.